let me just quickly introduce everybody, and then I'm going to turn it over to Diane Lonsdale. Ted Esler is president of Missio Nexus, Association of Missions Agencies. John Hurst is the founder of Generous Mind. He's sort of a critical thinking innovator. He also does work with SIL. He's done a lot of work with In-Christ Communications over the years. Brian Kluth is a generosity expert. He is a national spokesperson for the National Association of Evangelicals Bless Your Pastor initiative. He'll sort of represent churches. Bill McKendry is former president of Hannah McKendry, a branding marketing ad agency in Grand Rapids, has a nonprofit called Do More Good and a creative agency called Haven. He's up on the shores of Lake Michigan. Andrew Olson is a partner and senior vice president of Newport One. His niche is direct response fundraising development. He'll talk to us about what people are doing on the fundraising side. Seth Rankin is a senior media consultant at Outreach Incorporated in Colorado Springs, big church marketing company, all kinds of digital, social strategies he works with. And then Steve Strang is the founder and CEO of Charisma Media. You all, I'm sure, are familiar with Charisma Magazine, but the publishing company. So he's got a big, he can see clear from the top of his organization about what's going on in communications in general in the Christian world. So that being said, thank you all for taking the time to be with us. And I'm going to turn it over to Diane Lonsdale, our president, and let her walk us through the webinar and the discussion.
So we're going to talk a lot about new messaging today, because new messaging is really the cornerstone for all of the activity that we've observed, that our research told us about. If you were like us, like our clients, during this lockdown period, we were all sort of scrambling to get timely, regular, relevant, accurate communications to our constituents. And so the focus had to be, everything was changing. So we had to really talk about what was changing and how that impacted our ministries, our churches, the people that we serve. So that was the new messaging piece. And I like this word cloud from the standpoint that what is in the smack dab in the middle of this is what word? Continue. They are going to continue their mission on point. They're going to continue their ministries. They're going to continue with their vision, mission, and values to share the gospel, to reach the unreached of the world, to proclaim the name of Jesus, God, to be caring servants of those that are lost and need help, etc. So the next thing that we talked about is, what were they concerned about? And there were more questions, but I'm just giving you a top line here. What were they mainly concerned about? And from this word cloud, you can see three basic things here. They're concerned about reaching their audience. They're concerned about the noise in the environment, and they're concerned about getting their message right.
Marketing and messaging and branding is not about more information going into the marketplace. It's about differentiation. And so if you really want to cut through, you really got to think about how are you going to differentiate. And so how do you differentiate? There's a couple of things that I've been working with people on. One is really the kind of the perspective of the kind of messages that you put out into the marketplace. And oversimplification, I think you have to look at your brand and you fall in one of three categories. You're either candy, you're vitamin, or you're a painkiller.
Interesting.
All right. So candy is maybe entertainment and really kind of nice to have and fun to have. Those are concerts and and things that you do for fun. Christian movies, Christian concerts. That fall prior to COVID, that fell into the candy category, right? There's a whole lot of Christian nonprofit organizations that fall into the vitamin category, which is and I would say probably the vast majority of Christian nonprofits fall into vitamins, saying that's all really good stuff to do, and I probably should do it, but do I do it, right? And then there's a few that fall into the painkiller category, which is you extinguish a specific pain point, something that really needs to be done and really needs to be urgently done. I've encouraged and challenged my clients to say, if you were candy or if you were a vitamin, today, after COVID, I challenge you to try to change your messaging and become a painkiller. Tell me the pain point that you're trying to extinguish, and let's wrap our messaging around becoming a painkiller.
If I was going to communicate to people, it's just, you have got to do what it takes. Believe God in a new way. Our whole mission is to inspire people to encounter the power of the Holy Spirit. That has not changed since 1975. When I teach young people, it's like a whole lot's changed in the 45 years I've been doing this, but basic things don't work, like hard work, being focused on your vision, believing God. Those things don't change, even though we're having to deal with different circumstances. And so I hope that helps somebody.
COVID-19 has actually caused more stress on pastors than ever before. We did state of the plate research, and we showed that 65% of churches were experiencing a decline in giving this 6, 7, 8 weeks after COVID hit, after the shutdowns hit. And so this year is going to be more important than ever that churches and Christians really step up and love and appreciate their pastors. But it's likely that some of the budgets are going down. So they're going to have to do it in those practical, creative ways. And that's what the Bless Your Pastor is all about, is the individual Christian loving on their pastor. The barber cutting their hair, the mechanic fixing their car, giving them gift cards, helping them in all kinds of practical ways. So we're going to strongly pivot off of COVID and say now more than ever, this is really, really needed. And pastors need to be loved and appreciated, because it's been a hard run. There's a little saying I used to say, the fastest chicken in the barnyard is one with his head cut off. And so for a lot of pastors, they're the fastest chicken in the barnyard. This whole crisis has just caused them to be running fast and hard, but they're not always sure even what to do. And so it's really been a difficult season, and they're more challenged than ever before.
Video has become critically more important across the board with donors in essentially every audience group. Because people are at home for the most part, we're also finding that desktop computer usage is through the roof, whereas 6 to 9 months ago, if you looked at the trends, most media was being consumed on mobile because people were out and about, they were out of their, in the office, they were out of their home. But right now, the usage on desktop computers is so much higher. So as you think about creating your messaging, creating video content, creating digital content, the more that you can drive it to the desktop user while there are still lockdowns happening, while people are still working from home, more significantly than not, you'll see increased response rates if you're designing primarily for desktop users. On the video perspective, there's two platforms that are working really well right now for video messaging, and those are BombBomb, so BOMB, which is a real-time video engagement tool. And then the other that's really effective is ViewSpark, which is a tool that lets you engage with video and also embed an ask and a fundraising opportunity right within those videos. So those are the two that my clients are using pretty effectively right now, and that's what I'm seeing.
Great.
One thing that I would say, speaking to what Andrew just said, is I think one of the things that we've noticed in the crisis, and it's said really well by Martin Wolf, who wrote in the Financial Times, he said, history accelerates in crisis. This pandemic may not itself transform the world, but it can accelerate changes already underway. And I think what Andrew said is really a testament to that. Video was already growing. It's just dramatically increased. And I think we need to look for those things that were already on the rise in our innovative tools and just imagine them and what kind of growth we're seeing in those areas, because I think we're going to see a lot of growth in some of the areas that were already trending, but have now just really taken off.
It's hard to say, but I think a word that's missing that I was kind of surprised is that you don't see a lot of hope. And if you go on Facebook, there's a lot of negativity, and make no mistake, I love a good conspiracy theory, but they're rampant right now. I mean, it's crazy. And I would say on the church side, our God is not surprised by all of this. He is outside of time. He knows this is going on. He knew it was coming. This is not a surprise to him. and we don't need to fall in despair. And I think the message of hope is one that we should be, from the church side, we should be sharing.
So all of our clients that are besting the market from fundraising perspective right now are doing this. They're saying, here's what we planned for our ministry for the year. Then COVID happened. Here's how we've pivoted. Here's what we learned both about the people we serve and about the people who work in our ministry. And from there, here's how we're changing our service to make sure that we're delivering on mission and on ministry objectives. And so I would encourage everyone, I think, Steve, without knowing it, kind of gave us a brilliant distillation of how to navigate the messaging for donors as well. And if we follow that model, what we find is that it helps donors connect who you were 6 months ago with who you've been forced to become today, and really kind of galvanize around that change in mission with you to become more effective supporters of the ministry.
And Diane, this is Palmer. Just one thought came to mind. I don't think
Yep.
I've heard anybody mention this. Is, there's always opportunity in chaos. And so that's something we need to look for. And not that we want to, traffic in bad things, and use them the wrong way, but there's opportunity, a lot of these ministries to do things that otherwise wouldn't be there because of what's going on. And we need to sort of scan the horizon and look for those things, windows to push through, openings that weren't there before, and take advantage of and capitalize on those kinds of things that might not have been there before this happened, might be gone afterwards.
Sometimes it's about being innovative within the box. Like, people always say, let's think outside of the box. And quite honestly, most marketing challenges are being creative within the box, right? And redefining what that's like. And so when you look at the stats of Facebook and Instagram, for example, on social media, prior to COVID, 71% of America spent an average of 2.5 hours a day on Instagram and Facebook, right? 71% of all America spent 2.5 hours a day on Facebook and Instagram. Post-COVID, it's now pushing 3.5 hours, right? And so that is the new, that's the medium, right? As you look into third and fourth quarter, I will tell you there's some interesting dynamics happening. That, number one, a lot of big brands like the Pepsis and the Starbucks and stuff like that of the world are actually boycotting Facebook and Instagram because of political disagreement, right? Which just means the noise has just gone down as the use has just escalated, right? And then on top of it, our audience, the conservative Christian audience, they're tuned into certain mediums, especially things like Facebook and Instagram, at an even higher level. And that's only going to increase as the election comes on. And so, if you're looking for hopeful ways to be innovative, get innovative in Facebook and Instagram, because the table is totally set for you.
Right, definitely.
Well, another in the box idea, Diane, if you don't mind me jumping in, is email still is an awesome tool. And for us particularly, we communicate with a lot of CEOs, and they're traveling all the time. And now with COVID on, all of a sudden, we send an email out to 300 CEOs. We're getting almost zero I'm on vacation bounce backs. We used to get a third or to a half. And I would just say our communication stream has blown up on something trackable, which is old school, but we've been leaning into it a bunch more during COVID because finding people are actually answering emails.
That's interesting. I mean, I've heard a couple of these like almost counter trends or things that you wouldn't expect, like the desktop usage on the rise, things that, maybe we wouldn't have expected. But those things are not to be overlooked, clearly.
If I could say something that's maybe a little bit contrarian, the pandemic came out of nowhere. It shut things down. I think there's a very real chance that the censorship against conservatives and Christians may happen, maybe in one fell swoop. And if we rely too much on Facebook and Instagram, we're going to be hurting really big time. We're shifting our focus away from Facebook because some of our content is not politically correct and is being censored. It hasn't been a big deal or a big scandal, but it's out there. And if we're dealing with ministries and donors, we have to keep that up and to know that the stakes are high.
Just to let our attendees know, if we could go to the next slide, please, that we do have ICC in a time such as this, and looking forward into the next 6 to 12 months, is offering free strategy sessions. You know, we can do various formats to help you navigate that. And we also have 1-hour consultations with ICC, and also full and half-day media trainings. So I think that about wraps it up from our end. We're sort of right on time. We're so grateful to all of you for sharing your insights, your expertise, your experiences, and just your ideas. Like, there were some really good ideas here. So thank you so much for that.